Welcome to the Rustic Garden. I'm going to give you a tour of the garden, talk about some of the stuff I'm harvesting. It's going to be a long video, so if you don't like tours, I understand. Right in here is really my entire warm weather garden minus tomatoes and peppers. And the reason that you do this, that's all basil right down there, cucumbers, squash we just put in the cup, some beans back there, okra. If you look at my garden from this vantage point, it's all filled with the cool weather crops. So rather waiting 10 days while this all comes to full growth and I start harvesting it, go ahead and start your warm weather crops in cups and you can get, a good 2-week advantage on time. Coming across this way, we have the lettuces that are finishing up. These were all cut and come again lettuces. This might be on their second or third production of lettuce, but they're all bitter now because it's getting warm. And rather than wait for this and put in basil seeds, like I said, I have the basil growing over there. Let's go take a look at the garden down here. I'm going to show you the cool weather crops, how they're growing, what I'm going to be harvesting today for dinner. The peas are doing really well. It's time to pick all of them. I have snow pods and sugar pods, the flat peas that are like stir-fry peas right in here. And then the full peas, let's see if I can find a good one here, where it's the edible pod and peas. Completely edible. You don't have to worry about the strings or eating the shell. They're really, really good. Lavender, those are collecting bees, turning to seed. They're all going to get pulled out. So again, the seeds that I started will go into these spaces. Here's one patch of asparagus that finished up. I was harvesting that for several weeks. And then you need to make sure you leave some stalks and let them fully mature. So this way the leaves grow really through the summer. Leave them there until they totally brown out and die back. And that will recharge your root system and you'll get asparagus next year. Parsley down there, endive back there. This is a scarlet kale that will grow through the summer and it's ready to start getting harvested. My purple kohlrabi, you can see that the ball is starting to form. They should be ready to eat in about 10 days. Just did a video on the tomatoes along this area. Mulch them out, prune them back. They're going to be my 2-pound tomatoes. I'm shooting to get 2-pound tomatoes, so I'm growing them with a single stem. And again, tons of peas right in there. Another sort of wildflower garden to attract in insects. That's borage right down there. Okay, let me get across and we'll go check out the garden on the other side. A couple early tomatoes. This is silvery fir. It's a determinate variety. It's doing really well and it's starting to set all of its flowers. So this variety tends to set flowers over maybe a 2-week period and then the fruit starts coming and then it dies back. This is a glacier, semi-determinate, doing really, really well in the container. These are my potatoes that I'm growing in 5-gallon buckets. They're doing well. They'll be ready to harvest probably towards the end of June. This is a sort of a leafing cabbage. It's really good. Somewhere in the family of kale, collards, and cabbage, but it's a delicious leaf. This will all get cleaned up. The peppermint's going to get cut back. These peas will all come out, and again, people say, well, why do you start seeds in cups? The reason being is I got all this cool weather stuff growing and I don't have space for them. So go ahead and start them in cups or containers and you'll get a jump on the season 2 weeks at least. Those are dwarf tomatoes, Micro Tom and Tiny Tim, and they will only get about 1 foot tall. They're starting to flower. More container tomatoes. They're doing well. They actually got hit by a frost a bit back and they've recovered nicely. There's a pepper in there. That is a grape growing in there. So far so good. Also growing a goji berry right in there and it's doing really well. Not sure if it's good a fruit or not, but we were actually thinking about moving and I wanted to get these started in the containers, the grape and the goji berry, but we're going to stick around here for a while till my kids finish college. This space in here is not blooming yet except for the pincushion flower, but this is really all perennial flowers, baby breaths, echinacea, purple cone flower, different kinds of things, and this is really to attract pollinators into the garden. Just set up this trellis, 3 poles, tied up at the top like a teepee. These beans, these are probably string beans, reseeded themselves and are doing really well, so I figured the seeds are strong, why not let them grow, and just dropped in the the stakes today. More kohlrabi, a different kind of variety. I think this is Super Schmelz. I love this pea. It's a new one I just started growing and has a wonderful blush on the shell. Forgot the name, or I would tell you what it was. The empty containers will get filled with cucumbers. This is my hot pepper garden, couple habaneros, and a facing heaven pepper. Got one side over here that will get some tomatoes in there. That's a lavender right in front. These are tomatoes that I'm trialing for cicada seeds, and some peppers in there that I'm also trialing for cicada seeds. That is a variety of asparagus called Purple Passion, and that has to all get tied up and cleaned up a little bit. Some more tomatoes that I sell. They're doing really well, nice and green, getting large. This is all going to get mulched and cleaned up. I'm going to show you a finished tomato and pepper garden on the other side and how I typically use mulch and prune out the tomatoes. Cabbage back there, my main asparagus crop. Again, you got to let it grow. You can't take every spear or you're not going to have a root system when you come back. That is garlic right in there. It's a hardneck garlic. That should be ready in June. Let me take you across to the other side. Removed out some bok choy, took all my cabbage out. That'll all get cleaned up, probably composted. No diseases or any problems are in there. I use containers with the bottoms cut out for pepper plants. The lettuces all need to get harvested. Again, it's getting warm. It's starting to get bitter. That will all come out, and the cups that I'm growing, the cucumber, squash, zucchini, will mature, not mature, but will get a great start in the next 10 to 14 days, and they will all go in here. The broccoli, I mean, it looks great, but we just don't have the right temperature because we get these heat peaks, 80, 90 degrees, and they tend to flower and go to seed. But you can see that I've been eating it. There's one cauliflower left. You can grow a cabbage in a 5-gallon container. That's a cabbage right there. Broccoli florets are delicious. You can cut all those off and put them right into a salad. That's what I'll be doing. This is a Premier kale. Got a little beat up back there, but you know, sometimes you worry about the leaves, but when you look down into the middle, they're all nice and green and doing pretty well. Brussels sprouts back there. More kohlrabi right there, and this is a dwarf kale, doing pretty good. Not sure why the kale are getting a little brown on the tips, but brown and yellow, but they're doing okay. I might give them a little bit of a nitrogen fish emulsion. Some chicken wire and trellises that'll get cleaned up and set up for growing beans and cucumbers up. I have some radishes in there. I also have turnips. Here's my fig that actually survived. I wrapped it thoroughly this year because for the last 3 years it's been freezing out and all the wood gets damaged and then it's all dead, so you have nothing that's sitting above here and it all comes back at the bottom. So even though I have some bottom growth, I now have figs growing in here because I took the time to wrap it and take care of it. So if you're in a zone where the temperatures drop just a little bit too much, a couple wraps of burlap and your fig plants will survive. Right in here, lots of radishes. My tip for radishes, let's see what we have. These are cherry bell. My tip for radishes is do not give them nitrogen. They do better neglected, and if you give them too much nitrogen, you get a lot of leaf growth and you don't get much of a development of the root like that. So neglect your radishes and they tend to do better. These are peppers I'm growing for All America Selections. This is another test garden. And here are container plants that I did a video on. Those are my herbs down there on the left. They're doing really well, really well. The peppermint is doing well, 3 kinds of peppermint in there. These are leeks that I've given a haircut. They're going to get divided out. They're most indestructible. The root systems are really strong. Same with the onions. They're all ready to be put out into the ground. Across here is another garden. My tomatoes, these are actually cherry tomatoes, 5 cherry tomatoes, and I just want to show you how I set them up. I did 2 videos on them on my other channel, and I'll do one on this one too. But I use mulch. Mulch is a great way to keep the moisture in your soil. You have to water less, and it also helps the tomatoes. If the ground dries out and then you add water, sometimes your fruit cracks, and that really comes from fluctuation in water. It also creates a disease splash barrier, so any spores or anything that it's in the dirt, if you put mulch over it, it just doesn't splash up. And you can see that I started taking some of the leaves off the bottom of the plant. So I like to make about a 1-foot gap to create a disease splash barrier. They're doing really, really well. Peppers, same thing. You don't need to prune them as much as tomatoes. That's up to you. And then when we come across here, this is really my wildflower gardens, and those are daffodil remains back there, so when they start yellowing out, I'll remove those. Lots of raspberries dropped in here from the birds sitting on the branches of the apple tree here. The apple tree has been doing great, except the squirrels come and take every single apple off of it. So I'll clean out these raspberries. I can see a lot of the wildflowers starting to come up, but this is a bee-friendly, pollinator-friendly, good insect-friendly section of my yard. More wildflowers up here. Everything you see really that's green is going to bloom in some way, and I'm really looking forward to that. I reseeded it with a lot of wildflowers, and I really recommend, maybe the final tip is to bring in a lot of annuals, put them near your garden. That will bring in pollinators. If you have space, drop in a perennial garden. That will bring in pollinators and beneficial insects, and it's a really good way to ensure that your fruits and vegetables are getting pollinated, so that your fruit isn't, starting to grow and then kind of browns out. One tip, those dang squirrels also eat my tomatoes, so I put in a couple of tomatoes throughout here, and I'm just going to let them grow wild, and hopefully they feed the squirrels, because they'll have to do a little bit less work. They can come over here and they won't be hassled. So I'm trying to figure out a way to take care of the squirrels. I also got a trap and release trap, and I may or may not use that. That takes a little bit of work, but hopefully they come over here, eat these tomatoes, and get their fill. Hope you enjoyed the tour. Please check out my garden and seed shop at www.therustedgarden.com, and please check out my YouTube videos. Thanks.